What will happen in global aviation in the next 10 to 15 years? If you look through the specialized press a little, you may get the impression that something big is brewing there. All electric planes, super green hydrogen fuel, and the second coming of supersonic flight are just around the corner. However, in reality, everything is not so simple. At the current time, aviation is at a stage of development where the emergence of something radically new is associated with a number of as yet unresolved problems. Some even call this era a kind of stagnation and criticize it for the lack of rapid progress. But you definitely shouldn't rush to such easy conclusions. You need to have a good understanding of what modern aviation is all about. This is a very conservative area where the main emphasis is placed primarily on safety and economic efficiency. For example, the usual layout of mainline airliners, a swept wing, engines below on pylons, and an elongated fuselage with a round cross-section was formed in the second half of the last century. And since then, nothing has fundamentally changed. New construction materials, more efficient engines, and a comfortable passenger compartment have appeared, but the idea is still the same. At the same time, creating such an aircraft and putting it into operation still requires a lot of time, about 7 to 8 years, and several $billion. Something radically new will require even more time and money, so we hasten to disappoint romantically inclined optimists. In the next 15 to 20 years, all civilized humanity will still fly on airplanes produced by Airbus and Boeing. Mass transportation of passengers and cargo will remain theirs. However, in the segment of smaller aircraft, the breadth of future technologies is already being felt with might and main. Electricity, hydrogen, and supersonic flights come there. However, the giants of the aircraft industry are also not sitting idly by and thinking about how to apply all this to promising large aircraft. We talk about the present and near future of aviation on the Avios Motor channel. What plans for the near future do the two largest aircraft manufacturing companies in the world have? They are mainly focused on fulfilling the truly gigantic volume of collected orders. Currently, Airbus and Boeing must collectively deliver more than 12,000 airplanes to their customers. Their production will take about 10 to 12 years if everything goes according to plan and events like the past pandemic do not interfere. Airbus currently has 4 aircraft models on its assembly line. These are the narrow-body A220 and A320neo, as well as the wide-body A330neo and A350. European aircraft manufacturers will have to build more than 7,000 of these aircraft. And so far, they are not experiencing any particular problems with the pace of their production, delivering more than 600 aircraft per year. With a high degree of probability, Airbus will build even more, since the order portfolio is steadily increasing by several hundred aircraft annually. Primarily due to sales of the fantastically successful A320neo family of aircraft. This is where the airplane of the present and near future really lies. About 2,700 of these aircraft are already flying with airlines, and another 6,000 remain to be delivered, and this figure will definitely grow. The main competitor from America also has a similar bestseller, the 737 MAX. True, the volume of its orders and deliveries is about a third less. This is due to a series of disasters and the pandemic. But these are still very large numbers because more than 4,000 aircraft of this model remain to be built. In general, it should be noted that in recent years, Boeing has been doing poorly in the civil aircraft industry, to put it mildly. Problems have arisen not only with the 737 MAX line, but also with large, wide-body aircraft. The 787 Dreamliner suffered from widespread design defects, leading to a months-long suspension of deliveries to customers. And completion of certification of the updated 777X is expected only in 2025. Although it took off for the first time in 2020, however, all these troubles are unlikely to prevent Boeing from fulfilling its obligations to customers. The company has about 1,000 wide-body aircraft left to build. For existing projects, the situation is more or less clear. But what are both leading aircraft manufacturing giants planning for the longer term? At the moment, they do not have a single ready-made program to create a completely new airliner that would enter the market in the next 10 to 15 years. Probably in a few years, we will see another remotorization program from both companies, but nothing more. The closest candidates for engine replacement are the wide-body Airbus A350 and Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Both aircraft use a power plant manufactured by Rolls-Royce, and British motorists already have a completely new ultrafan engine on the way. But why on earth are Airbus and Boeing in no particular hurry? Here's the thing. In 2021, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, released a resolution committing the aviation industry to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to zero by 2050. The task is, to put it mildly, overambitious, and one gets the feeling that its achievement is somewhere beyond the bounds of science fiction. It turns out that the most modern aircraft produced in the next 10 to 12 years will work out their service life exactly by the stated date. But in the second half of the 21st century, you need to fly something, which means the newest models that meet the requirements of complete decarbonization should appear at the turn of the 30s and 40s. Thus, Airbus and Boeing have about 15 years left to create fundamentally new aircraft. And both companies have already announced the start of experimental programs to develop their prototypes. Airbus called it zero emission and officially introduced it in 2020. As part of the project, concepts for 3 promising aircraft are being developed at once. This is a small regional turboprop airliner that is designed to carry 100 passengers over a distance of up to 1,800 kilometers. A larger aircraft with 200 seats and a range of 3,700 kilometers is a sort of analog of the A320, and a futuristic concept made according to a hybrid flying wing design with a supporting body whose flight characteristics are comparable to the previous model. Airbus says that all this will appear in 2035. The main feature of the project is the use of environmentally friendly fuel. The power plant of these aircraft will run on liquid hydrogen. This solution will completely eliminate carbon dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions. The output is only heat and water. They plan to obtain energy for movement in 2 fundamentally different ways. The first and most obvious is burning hydrogen in a gas turbine engine instead of kerosene, and the second is the use of fuel cells. In this device, the chemical energy of hydrogen is converted into electrical energy, which in turn powers electric motors. Both methods can be used simultaneously in a hybrid power plant. For aerial testing of these technologies, they will use the very first flight prototype of the A380, which first took off back in 2005. An experimental turbofan engine will be installed at the rear of the fuselage on a horizontal pylon. Hydrogen will be supplied from 4 large fuel tanks located on the lower deck. And before it gets into the engine, it will go from a liquid to a gaseous state. Project ZEROE is incredibly ambitious and at the same time risky. Hydrogen is very good as an aviation fuel. In theory, it will significantly improve the aircraft's performance and make it the most environmentally friendly mode of transport. But there are so many problems along this path that it is hard to believe in 2035. It is necessary to create new engines, solve the problem of fuel storage and safety on aircraft, create ground infrastructure, and much more. And the fuel itself is still very expensive. The appearance of the flying wing concept in this project should not be surprising. Aircraft manufacturers around the world have long dreamed of building an airliner using this design, but there are big doubts that passengers will like flying on it. A large salon without windows is not so bad. With any roll, lateral overloads will also occur, as when turning a car at speed. This almost never happens on a regular plane. However, these subtleties do not particularly frighten anyone. And for example, NASA specialists are also working on a project for a similar airliner. It was called N3X.